Hey, hi, how are ya? Welcome to Fan Fridays. I'm Cole from Bandhammer Games. I just got done recording last week's episode of Fan Fridays. Uh, I'm sorry for how long it was. Um, this week I wanted to talk about chaotic in general. I'm gonna try and keep it to 10 to 15 minutes this week, but we'll see. Um, so, any of you guys who don't know, Chaotic was a trading card game. I think it started in 2009. I'm not entirely sure. Um, but it lasted for 3 or 4 years. It had like 7 sets. Um, 2 seasons of the show, which by the way, that you can watch the show on YouTube. And I think I want to do like a watch along on stream. Um, in the future, maybe not on stream. Maybe I'll just do. I don't know. I want to do something with like by revisiting the show. But yeah, you can watch it on on YouTube for free. And it's actually really good. I really like it a lot. I love the lore and everything that, honestly, everything that the show gives you, I love. Um, Now, the game itself, I think, is a little outdated. Gameplay wise, I think it's a little outdated. And that kind of concerns me because I know not the creator, but the person who owns the rights to Chaotic now. His name's like Brian Gannon or something like that. Um, I know that he's got a lot of plans for the franchise, and eventually it's going to come back. I don't know how it's going to come back. I don't know in what way, how strong, etc., etc. But the plans, from what I heard, from what I've heard, is doesn't want to do a reboot. He wants to continue off of where they left off, and where they left off. I guess there's 3 seasons. I forgot there's three seasons. It was they got 12 or 13 episodes into season 3, and then the the game died. Chaotic died basically because 4Kids did something with the license. I can't remember, but basically they kind of just said no, not anymore. We're done. Um, and that was one set into the third block, I guess. Um, and so there's actually cards from the second set of that block that exist because they were introduced in like some a small portion of those cards were introduced the into like some set. I think it was like some tins or something like that. Maybe they were blisters. I don't remember exactly, but yeah. So there are some cards from the God. What's so you've got Dawn of Param, Zenith of the Hive, Silent Sands, and then it goes into Beyond the Doors, something like that. Turn of the Tides, Rise of the Oligarch, For Forged Alliances, or something like that, and then it goes into Secrets of the Lost City. Fire and Stone was supposed to be. I wasn't even counting. Shoot, Fire and Stone. We have some cards from Fire and Stone that exist. So I know that they want to finish that set, so re-release that set, and they also want to finish off the rest of that block. Because I guess the cards exist for that already, or something of that, something similar to that. Um, so that's a thing. But my problem with it is I don't think that the game holds up to the 2023 standards that we have for card games. I think there's too much going on, too much to keep track of, basically, between the fluctuations in the stats for each character. Um, there's like 4 different decks that you have to have. You've got to have locations, got to have your musics, you got to have your creatures with the battle gear that they possess. Um, that they have equipped. I gotta have attacks, and maybe that's it. But like that's a lot of different decks. And theoretically, you'd have different sleeves for all of these because you'd have to keep them separated. Um, so it's just a lot to keep track of, and it's really fiddly. Now there is an app that is out on Android, and I have it on my phone. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. But it it is called Chaotic Tracker, and that's supposedly you can input in all of the creatures that are fighting. You can put the stats that they have printed on the card, which we'll come back to the stats in a second. Type in the stats on the card, on the base stats on the cards, and then et cetera, et cetera. You can go through, and then you can keep track of everything like that. Now, another thing that I think that's part of the fiddliness, something I think needs to go, are the random stats, because not every Maxor card has the same stats. There's different stat spreads. So you can have one that's really good in courage but really bad in speed. You can have one that's really bad in courage, really good in power, or something like that. You could also have one that has a really low energy, which is the HP of the card. So lower energy generally is worse. So because they're easier to kill, to destroy, to code, whatever you want to call it. Easier to remove. And for flavor standpoint, I understand that. It makes sense. It's kind of fun, especially collecting. It's really nice, or not nice, but it's interesting. But I think that's really bad for the game because it artificially inflates prices of these cards. It makes some versions of them worth way more than others, and I think that overall, it's just you get punished for having a non-optimal version of that card, even though that card, like its abilities, could be like the best thing for the deck. If the stats just aren't there, then it's weak, and sometimes it's really hard to overlook. Something also that I don't like is I don't like how long the games can be sometimes. Another thing I don't like about the game is that there's a lot going on the board right out the gate. Um, I like how the creatures move around on the board, kind of like playing chess, like almost like an actual board game. I like that, but I don't like how you've got to have a lot of spaces for everything. I think I'd like to kind of trim some of that stuff up. What I have been thinking about, I think the biggest thing that I don't like about the game is how boring the combat is. I liked the restriction on the deck building thing. So you had 20 points, 20 build points worth of cards that you can have in your attack deck of 20 cards. Now, the stronger the attack would be, the more build points it would require. And so there are some attacks that are 4 or 5 cost build points. So you'd have to offset it with zeros. And generally, zeros kind of aren't super great. But the 5 would be really strong. Like Almageddon, which is such a cool name. But it does 10 base. I think it's 10 base. And it's also 10 for each element that you have. And it might also have another way to get another 10. But that would be 50 minimum. And so if you have a way for a creature to, have all the elements, that's 50 damage right there. And most creatures ranged around the 40 energy to 70 on the high end. So, you can almost one shot someone. And there's an episode about that, about a creature who, knew that attack and could destroy everybody. But that kind of just devolves the gameplay down to, I'm going to play an attack, I'm going to take a hit. I'm going to play an attack, I'm gonna take a hit. There's no like defensive mechanics. There are a couple ways to like heal and stuff, but I kind of feel like it gets really boring. It just becomes like a punching fest, and there's not a lot of intricate things that you can do with that. Um, I would love a way to see combos, like attack combos, like for example, a vine snare, and then into a rocket launch or something like that. I don't know. I just named two different attacks that off the top of my head. But some like a restructure of the attacks and whatnot. I think that would really benefit the game. That way you can have different cards would combo into different things, and I think that'd be overall better for the game. Um, yeah, those are kind of like my biggest things. It's hard to keep track of all the different stats. I really dislike all the different decks, and I also really dislike combat, and I dislike the random. Did I say random stats? If I didn't say random stats, I dislike that. So I think those are the things that are really holding it back. And in my opinion, I think those are what should not be included. Like, it's been so long. It's been over 10 years since the game existed. Or actually, I think since it died. Maybe longer than 10 years, honestly. But it's old now. It's kind of antiquated. And I'd love to see it revamped, reworked, keep all the characters, just rework them, retrain them, if you will. Maybe even if you just want to release the last set, Fire and Stone, so that people who can get those cards that they always wanted, etc., and then reboot the game after that. I think they'd be fine because then they could still play with those old cards, but then you can kind of modernize Chaotic. And I think that there's a lot that you can do to modernize it. It's all right there, like it's all ready to go. You just need to kind of put all the pieces together. So I've kind of started to do that a little bit. I'm not like an actual game designer fully, but I've dabbled in creating my own card games, and it's a lot easier to make a card game when you have something to base it off of. And I have my own thoughts and ideas and opinions and concepts floating around to modernize Chaotic, if you will. And it's something that I'd really like to do more of and focus more on. So, yeah, that's it for this week's Fan Friday. Just kind of want to talk about why I think bringing Chaotic into 2020s the same exact way that it left in the 2010s would be a bad idea. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Don't know what it'll be about or when it'll be, but hopefully it'll be on a Friday. So without further ado, I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.